Yeah, within Catholic sacramental theology, I think one of the best examples of the use of phenomenology within theological reflection is something like John Paul II's Theology of the Body work. It's a work that's used extensively in pastoral ministry, has wide application in theology of marriage, theology of relationships and sexuality. It's very helpful material. And I found it so compelling in my own life and lives of other people I know because of its appeal. It's very transparent, sincere appeal to common human experience. Things like the experience of solitude, the experience of guilt and shame, and yet the experience of redemption, of a kind of liberation of desire from being self-destructive, self-consuming. So I think John Paul II's blend of philosophy and theology, and in particular a kind of phenomenological approach combined with metaphysics at all times, can be very helpful to access certain real-life experiences and show the relevance of church doctrines and classic religious texts that can speak to these experiences. And so I think phenomenology can form this bridge between the content of a given religious tradition and our experiential uptake and application of that content in our lives. In his book Being and Time, Martin Heidegger describes phenomenology as the elevation of possibility. This is in contrast to metaphysics, where metaphysics puts priority on what's called actuality, what is the case. Phenomenology looks at what could be the case, what may be the case, what could give itself. And through its descriptive method, it tries to suspend judgment as to the isness of things as long as possible. In fact, indefinitely in phenomenology alone, it takes a transition back into metaphysics to make a judgment toward truth, in the name of truth, a kind of decisive judgment that such and such is the case, because then we're back in these categories of being and isness and causality, actuality. But phenomenology is helpful, I think, even to bring fresh air to the field of metaphysics, because it, in a sense, brackets and suspends this preoccupation with what is, and before judging too hastily, too much ahead of time, it lets things play out through the course of experience in such a way that can then bring us closer to the question, what is? And we can ask that again with freshness because we've taken the time to ask what gives. Yeah, I think phenomenology can seem to be a rather daunting kind of thing to study. Even the word itself, people might think they have to get some certificate or degree just to use the word, understand what does phenomenology mean. So I think it has a lot of technical and developed language that it's important for those of us who work in phenomenology to be able to bring to basic understandings and levels. And once we do that, I've seen a lot of students, undergraduate students included, really come to new awakenings and insights in their study of phenomenology. And I think especially when they see it applied in topics and questions that are most relevant to them, things like love and the possibility of divine revelation, being able to unpack these themes through philosophy as well as theology, I think gives us a nice roundness and a nice full picture of the truth. Yeah, for someone who has an interest in beginning to study phenomenology, I would encourage them greatly in that pursuit. I think there's so much fruit to be had in the course of their studies, and so many wonderful thinkers who are employing the method in their work. And so I think it pays off even early on in how it gives us this whole new way of looking at the world, a whole new way of hearing the world, a whole new way of feeling the world, of perceiving the world. I like to say that phenomenology, you look out at the world with big eyes and listen with big ears. There's an expansion that happens not only of the senses, but I believe ultimately of the human heart. And if we set for a goal for ourselves, something like, I want to love more, I want to love better, how can my heart be expanded? And phenomenology reveals that your heart is expanded to the degree that you forget yourself. And that's an unusual kind of mission within the field of philosophy, but it is of a piece with Christian theology. We see this in the lives of so many saints and their testimonies, this kind of characteristic of self-forgetfulness. And so when we talk about phenomenology, bracketing and suspending the natural attitude, part of that has to do with self-centeredness, self-concern, self-interest, self-absorption, and in effect it mirrors and goes along with what in Christian theology is called metanoia, or that conversion, that change of heart and mind. Phenomenology involves a similar conversion at the intellectual level, which I think readily lends itself to conversion at, you could say, the cardiological level or the psychological level, conversion of soul. And so I believe studying phenomenology can help to grant an expansion of our capacity to love and to let ourselves be loved.